dogs will get to it.
Okay.
It always takes a second.
Oh, it does. I think this says, yep, it says there's 3 people who have joined. So that means we're live. Oh, no, 24. Now there's more and more. Okay, joining. Hi, Monday. Hi, everybody. Happy Monday. I know for many of you it's not so happy because you're still at home and you're looking towards probably being at home for another month. The good news is that we're going to be home together. I'm always trying to look at the good news, at the bright side, for the silver lining, and the silver lining is that we are going to be home together. So maybe we'll get to know each other a little bit better over the course of the next couple weeks, but I know it's also really trying for millions of people on so many different levels. And I know we all need each other now more than ever. I tried to write about that in the Sunday paper yesterday. We're all dependent on one another. We're all deeply connected, and yet we're all kind of going through this in our own individual ways. That's at least what I've discovered. So I'm very dependent, I'm connected, and yet I'm very alone in what I'm going through. But I spent the weekend thinking a lot about all the takeaways from these home together conversations, and I learned so much from all of them. And there were big takeaways, practical takeaways from each of the conversations that I found to be very helpful, which I hope you did too. We were talking about that, Patrick, about some of the practical advices or practical suggestions.
Takeaways from all of them.
Yeah,
yep.
That really helped me pivot. Certainly Ed Milet on Saturday.
Ed was fantastic.
Yeah,
he had a bunch of different takeaways from from how if you're feeling hopeless to turn your mindset into being helpful and help other people and reach out to other people, and how that will change your internal feelings. Mel Robbins with the 5-second rule of not pressing snooze in the morning to make sure you still have that routine every single day, and creating predictability in your day and in your life during this uncertain time. Who else do we have? We had Joe Kennedy, who talked a lot about how you can
depend on government. Everybody thought they didn't need government at all, and government stepped up on Friday with the big relief package, which hopefully will help families across this country. I know it's not the job that you loved. I know it's not enough, but at least it's government stepping up to do some things
right.
at
and
this
then,
time.
We had Bethany Frankel on Friday as well, who was asking for people to continue to share and post about how they can find ways to give back, whether that's financial donations or just literally staying inside, washing your hands and spreading the message on social media.
Her Be Strong is continuing to try to raise money to get masks out to healthcare workers. My brother Timothy talked about the importance of taking it one day at a time, 1 hour at a time, or if you can't do that, 10 minutes at a time. So we're going to be talking also this week with, we're going to try to talk to Simon Sinek. Several of you have also asked about cousin Patrick Kennedy to talk about mental health, which I think is going to be really great. We're trying to do different subjects here. So we're dealing with mental health. Timothy also talked a lot about social and emotional learning. There's a lot on that.
Someone said Patrick took some advice from Ed Milet with no wearing a hat, not wearing a hat.
Yeah, and dressing up. I loved that Ed
I didn't
Milet.
really dress up. I'm wearing a Lost Boys sweatshut, so
but you took a shower, you brushed your hair, and you kind of pulled it together.
Well, I always shower. I just don't. I just like
God.
to wear a hat.
Yes, but he talked a lot about how important it is to kind of look at your day as getting up, getting dressed, treating it like you have somewhere to go.
Right.
And so I think those were all kind of takeaways that I found to be really helpful as I looked at another week of staying at home, social distancing to keep not only my own family safe, but every family around you, because my actions impact your actions. And so we were talking about this because some people who don't adhere to the suggestions of our governors, and they continue not to practice social distancing, and how that impacts me and you and others. So really trying to heed what our governors and our president has been telling us to social distance.
Yes.
Because that gets us to where we want to go quicker if we all do the same thing and if we all do what we're being told to do.
I think Rob is here, I see.
Rob is here.
And guys, continue. There's the little questions down there. I know the other day on Saturday we got to a lot of different people's questions, and we hope to continue. And Rob Lowe, who you all know, who's a amazing actor, father, family man, best New York Times selling author, has his own one-man show. He's tons of business endeavors. I mean, there's on and on and on. Good-looking guy.
Family.
But if you have questions for him, just make sure to ask below, and we'll go through them hopefully. And
he's never done this before, so he wasn't quite sure how to do it. So you asked your friend Johnny, his son, to make sure that he knows how to get him on here. There he is. Now we're waiting for Rob Lowe.
And hopefully he accepts it.
Yes, and Senator. There's Rob Lowe.
Hello.
There is Rob Lowe.
Mwah.
Welcome to Rob Lowe, our great friend. And so, Rob, thank you so much for joining us today.
What's going
Thanks
on?
for having me.
How you doing?
What's happening, Patty?
So, Rob, one of the many reasons we wanted to talk to you, because we talk to you all the time, but one of the many reasons is that millions of guys find themselves at home with their wife and kids in a concentrated manner for the first time in a long time. And I know you've spoken a lot about your inspiring family and how close you all are, but what advice do you have for men who are finding themselves at home with kids and wives for the first time in a long time?
Yeah, I mean, Maria, it's funny. People always ask about how do you survive adversity and the ebbs and flows of careers and things like that. And I think one of the reasons I had some success with is my natural worldview is glass half full. So when you talk about people being with their families for the first time in a long time, and this is a terrible time we're all living in, I look at it as an opportunity, and I look at the good part of it. I don't look at it like, oh my gosh, my boys are driving me insane, I need some me time. I look at it like, wow, we're actually going to sit and do a puzzle together. I can't remember the last time we did that. Or, we're going to get a ping pong tournament going. But I think it's like anything else. It's how you look at it. Mm-hmm. And we should all look at this time as it's going to sound insane because I get that people are suffering. Some people are losing their lives. And God bless, it's terrible. On the other side of it, we should look at this quarantine as a gift to reconnect with our families and maybe even start projects we weren't going to do. I think Worldview is all of it.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. I think we kind of said that to each other the other day of, wow, this is, I don't think, I can't predict when the next time is that I'll be able to live at home again with my mom, and that we all got to sit around the table and we played Monopoly and we did board games and everything together as a family. And it's been a unique, but a great experience so far. I think one of the things that we were really excited to talk to you about, and so many people were asking us questions before, was on the topic of sobriety. And I mean, millions and millions and millions of people depend on, in-person meetings, face-to-face meetings, which you're very familiar with and you've been outspoken about. What's kind of your words of advice during a time like right now where you're having to stay quarantined, self-isolated, and having to deal with sobriety?
Well, there's a lot of recovery online, whether it's old school online or with Zoom. I use that a lot. And I'm very blessed that over the years of being in recovery, I've built a group of friends that I can talk to just in my daily life. So a lot of people in my life who I see regularly are in recovery. So I have that conversation really organically, but my heart goes out to people right now who are struggling, or maybe they're new to recovery. I don't know. I can't even imagine what that would be like to not have the kind of support of going and being in proximity with others who are trying to have some success. It's really, really hard. And if you're out there and you're struggling, I say, God bless. And I would suggest reading. There are great books. I would read The Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. I would read A New Pair of Glasses. That's another great book. And then there's a book called The 12 and 12. Those are really the cornerstones of recovery. And there's no excuse. You got the time. You're not going anywhere, right? Everybody's trying to fill time.
Your son Johnny Lowe just said that there are AA meetings on Zoom, and a couple of people on my Instagram said, my kids are going to AA Zoom meetings. So if you have someone in your life who does not know about these meetings, that they're on Zoom or on other places as well. And
obviously, the other thing I always like to tell people is wherever you are in the country, you dial information for AA in your area, and somebody will pick up the phone and direct you to a way to get some recovery. So it's so simple. You just always forget about it. You're on the road. You're in a new place. All you got to do is information and ask for Alcoholics Anonymous, and they'll pick up and help you.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting. We were talking about the piece in the New York Times yesterday saying this is a moment that triggers people.
Oh.
Whether it's their sobriety, whether it's anxiety, why are you laughing?
I'm laughing because the notion of an alcoholic alone with his thoughts, what could possibly go wrong?
Well, no, you're right. I think they said that an increased amount of free time and alone time and quote unquote boredom has led a lot of people to trigger points, whether that's with sobriety or with, a lot of other kind of, mental issue thoughts. So what are some of the ways? I know, you're a big ice cream eater like I am, and that's what's been taking up a lot of my time, but what are other things that you've been doing to keep kind of your mind and body kind of focused on work and, obviously what you love to do each and every day of being an actor and going to work each and every morning is no longer possible. What are kind of some of the shifts that you're doing in your life to try to seize the opportunity?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I do, but I just and I'll get to it. But I just want to say before we get to the specifics of it, time. It's the old saw truism about an idle mind is the devil's workshop, and it's very triggering for people who have addictions. Time on their hands, particularly time you're isolated. I mean, all bets are off. It's really, really brutal for people. So don't feel like there's something wrong with you. This is if you had to design a time to put stress on someone with addiction issues, you would design this. Mm-hmm. You would design a time where you don't have to show up for work, where, people may or may not be checking on you, where you can have a case of the fuck-its for good reason. And, it's tailor-made for your ism to come out. So I've always found for me that in instilling some sort of a routine is good. Set your alarm, wake up. I try to do some exercise. People can do push-ups. You don't have to have a gym. You can walk around the house. You can walk in the yard if you can. Then I try to do some reading, and I try to reach out to people, and I pray. I got prayer, another big thing. I find a time every day to give thanks for things that I'm grateful for, a gratitude list, particularly at a time when there's a lot of stuff that's really scary. People are losing their jobs. People don't know where the next paycheck is. People don't know when they're going to see their friends and family. It's really important to remember what you do have to be grateful for. So I'm very big on gratitude lists. And yes, Patrick, on my gratitude list is ice cream. I am very, very grateful that I stocked up on ice cream before this all went to hell.
You can't say too much of that because he's like, saying he's doing Atkins all the time.
Yes. So. Well, listen, my Atkins people know when I cheat, they know it's on. Oh, I'm waiting for the Atkins ice cream. I keep telling the scientist, let's go.
Yeah, you should. You should do a little collab with them on that.
Oh, yeah.
Patrick should be in on that as well.
Oh, I'll get you in. Don't you worry.
But I think what Rob is talking about, because Kevin Love talked about that this past week. We had Kevin Love on here talking about the importance of routine. Ed Milet, who's Patrick's mentor, routine, getting up, getting dressed, acting as if you have someplace to go. And that the antidote for helplessness is feeling helpful. I know Patrick and I were talking about how when the fires were in Montecito, how you and your sons and Cheryl all got involved in helping your community, being helpful in a time of feeling helplessness.
Well, and you're right, Maria. And just by staying in your own home, you're being helpful.
Right.
It's wonderful that people can find additional ways to do it, and thank God that they are. But even the people who are doing something as simple as listening to the stay-at-home mandates and obeying them are doing something really selfless and really hard and really helpful.
That's true. Yeah. And I think the other thing is that, as I said, so many, one of the other things that your mentor, Ed, said yesterday is that in times of darkness and times when kind of everybody's shifting, great ideas are born. Great books come out of this time. Great organizations are born. New businesses are born. People are pivoting. Have you found yourself, because you've written best-selling books, you come up with the idea that you can do a one-man show. I mean, you come up with all kinds of things. Have you found yourself being more creative at this time, thinking of things you haven't thought of before?
Yeah, I have had an idea for a movie I've wanted to write for a long time, and this is the perfect excuse. I have no excuse. I have time on my hands. I'm trying to write at least a page a day, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it can be.
Right.
And so there will be a new movie script out of this. I mean, I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of better innovations across the country. Let's hope. But I know, at least for me, I'm going to have a new script out of it.
What about your boys? You have two boys Patrick's age. For so many young people who are like going into the job market, who are junior in the job market, so they're the first ones, fired.
Or Matthew Lowe. I mean, he's a perfect example of someone that spent the last years studying his butt off, keeping in the library for 8, 9, 10 hours a day, finally being able to pass the bar. And so many students are out there that have invested so much time and effort into preparing themselves for today or for May when they're graduating or, getting back into that job market. Do you have any advice, since you have two young kids that are, my age, to, a lot of the people that are graduating now or graduating law school or going out into the workforce? Do you have any words of wisdom?
Well, yeah, my oldest son, Matthew, was just entering the job market, having passed the bar as this whole coronavirus started. And he's like a lot of young people that you're referencing, everything's on hold.
Right.
Not only are there a lot of people not hiring, but there are a lot of people firing.
Right.
And again, I come back to worldview. I believe that, it's, I don't want to say survival of the fittest, but maybe there's a little bit of that. And it's all about how you look at yourself. I look at myself as like, and I can do this. I can find my special way to persevere. And I think that everybody has to have that kind of mindset that if you look at yourself as a victim or something like that, I don't think that's helpful. And I think a lot of the kids out there are going to wake up to a new reality of new opportunities, new jobs that weren't there in the first place, and a new reality. And the people that adapt to that and are flexible. I think flexibility is the key. Because at the end of the day, that great old saying is, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. I think that is being proven right now. The universe has plans for us, and we need to react to what that is being shown to us.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. That, we were talking because Rob has a podcast that's going to come out in a couple of months. I don't know. When is your podcast coming out? Well,
that's a perfect example. And Maria was nice enough to be one of my first guests. And we had such a great talk. My podcast is called Literally, literally with Rob Lowe. And now we may have to postpone it because of the coronavirus. So I'll know later today, but it may be in June or it may be a little bit later. But again, you just got to roll with it. You know, lots of people had businesses about to open. They have to postpone them. I'm right there with, I really feel, you know, I feel people's pain, but I'm blessed, really, really blessed that I don't have to, my whole livelihood doesn't depend on it like so many people.
Okay, there's a lot of
There's a
questions
bunch of
here.
questions.
So Patrick is going to operate the question thing.
I'm going to try to.
Oh my God, there's a lot. Rob Lowe for president. Those aren't
Well,
questions.
Rob Lowe, run.
I like that. That's very nice.
Has Rob Lowe changed his or adjusted his thinking about the role of government during this crisis?
Well, to me, what's really interesting, not to be a total poli-sci nerd,
Yeah.
is the it's reignited the Federalist discussions about how much power the states should have versus the federal government, and I've always been fascinated with that. I mean, I just think it's a great debate, and you see, as opposed to being an academic exercise, now you can really see how it makes a difference in people's lives. You know, if the federal government has one guideline, but California feels like it's not enough, shouldn't California have the opportunity to have different guidelines? So I love where this is leading in that area, and I think the conflict between the federal government and the state's government is a natural good thing. But I think that it's funny. Like I'm a less government type of guy, really,
Right.
at my core, and then it's moments like these you're like, whoa, thank God there's the government.
That's what, you know, Andrew Cuomo, and I know Rob well, so I know he's probably been watching his fair share of the news on this. And I know he has different political opinions sometimes from myself, but he's always up to date on politics. But Andrew Cuomo was saying in one of his live press conferences the other day, you know, everybody was like, I don't need the government, where, you know, government should stay out of my life. And all of a sudden, everybody's like, where's the government? I need the government. The government should be doing more. So it's really changed people's ideas about the role of government. And they've seen kind of firsthand the importance of local government,
Right.
statewide government. What have you thought of like the different governors who've been having live press conferences kind of in real time? Have you been watching all of that?
It's so fascinating because, I mean, call me a cynic, but I also can't help but look at everything through the prism of, oh yeah, they're fixing to run for president.
No, you just said you were a glass half full guy, so you're supposed to be like, you know, looking at it a different way, right?
Well, listen, okay, so I'm a glass half full, but half of that full glass is cynicism.
Oh, okay.
But no, it is. But what's amazing to me are the people who step up.
Right.
Right.
And by the way, regardless of it, to me, it's like worrying about whether a guy's doing it because he wants to run for president is like giving a rich person shit for giving to charity, or why people give to. I don't care why people give to charity. That they give to charity is the point. I don't care why certain governors take the spotlight if they're leading, and so be it if it ends up being that they run for president. But it's been very interesting to see the governors who have embraced this moment.
Yeah.
Governor DeWine in Ohio, right. Gavin Newsom here, Cuomo in New York City, who've really stepped up and seem to be leading the thinking on this. I think it's been heartening to watch, I think.
Right. And there's been a bunch of people that aren't politicians. We had Bethany Frankel here on Friday. If you're not familiar with her, she's a very large philanthropist, but also entrepreneur. And she was kind of in a state of shock of the lack of some of the politicians going out and kind of doing the work, like you said. And she went and took it in her own hands and found her business background as extremely helpful, being able to negotiate with people that were creating these N95 masks and being able to make sure that they don't price gouge and buy them in kind of a lower cost and everything like that. Is it a struggle for you because, like Maria had said, with the California, wildfires, with the Santa Barbara mudslides, everything, you were so front line. I mean, everything you and your family were out there, doing helicopter rides, going and donating food, checking in, having the firefighters over to your guys' houses. Has it been tough for you not being able to do as much here in this kind of situation?
Yeah, you definitely feel like you could be more of a physical presence. You always want to be, but that's the very thing that you don't want right now.
Yeah.
Again, I think, and by the way, it's almost easier in a way to go out and sort of flail around and try to figure out what you can do, when the truth of it is you just stay home. Everybody chill, take a deep breath, and let's just pull the covers up over your head for a couple weeks, be like Pawtoxy Phil, what is he, a chipmunk? What does he come out? The groundhog. Yeah, let's just do a Groundhog's Day. We all just go in our little holes for 2 weeks, and then we stick our heads up, and maybe it'll be spring again.
A little hibernation.
Yeah.
Rob, is there anything about this that actually scares you? Do you find yourself scared about this moment as someone with a family, as an American, as a global citizen?
I'm scared for people in my life who have pre-existing conditions and who are inclined to not be healthy. I really worry that if they get exposed, I have real concerns about that, which is why it's driving me and my family to be really. We were very early adapters on this lockdown here. And in fact, I had a lot of pressure from people in my business and to behave as usual. And those people have caught up with me now. I'm not saying I was one of the first people or anything, but I really early on knew that this was going to be something that was going to require, staying inside. So my real worry are all the people out there who are maybe alone, maybe not able to self-isolate as much as they should, and to have the added financial worry that so many people have. That's what scares me. But again, on the end of it, I think that we're going to come out of this better than we were before, certainly more prepared than we were before.
Yeah.
We've never seen anything like this. I mean, it'll be like the travel industry after 9/11, where you couldn't imagine that 9/11 could happen. It did. We made adjustments. Some of them we liked, some of them we didn't. But, so far, there hasn't been another 9/11. So I think this is going to be like that. I'm curious to see what the long-term takeaway differences are going to be. I mean, are they going to sell every 10th seat at Dodger Stadium?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, really, what, in all honesty, what is it going to be? Or is it going to be that when you go to a concert, you go through security, and then you go through a sanitizing state? I mean, what's it going to be?
I think it depends on what kind of, virus kind of, what they can find out with the virus, right? A lot of the pharmaceuticals they can get done in the next, periods of months. But you're right. I mean, all the sports have been on hold, concerts on hold. So I think people will definitely think about those large arenas in a different way than they have before. One of these questions that was kind of on the topic of what you were saying is, if you are alone and you have repeat triggers, how do you prevent it from letting you fall off the wagon? Or what's your advice?
Yeah, my thing about all of it is to keep it simple. And I go back to reaching out to people who are in recovery, talking to somebody else. The phones still work. You can still do that. You can always get to a Zoom meeting or something like that, and you can read the big book, and you can pray. That's the cocktail, and it's proven over many, many years through people a lot smarter than me. We know it works.
I think also one of the great things that works in AA is the sponsor model.
Yeah.
That everybody is a sponsor of somebody else. And all of us actually can be a sponsor now of somebody else. You don't have to be in AA, but we can emulate what AA has done so well. Like I can sponsor my neighbor by checking in on her. She's 90 some years of age. I can drop off fruit for her. We can do something that you guys, or that, you know, Bill Wilson in the big book did so well, is made everybody who showed up be responsible for somebody who comes after you.
Yeah. And be, it helps with accountability, you know, and we all need to be accountable to somebody. And that's, you know, being honest with somebody, sharing, you know, your secrets, with someone is a big component of getting healthy. And you can't do that without having that sponsor relationship.
So if people are wondering, every day you're getting up, you're you're practicing, you're acting as if you have somewhere to go, you're writing your film. I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
I think what you're describing is what kind of Mel Robbins did really well, which was how do Americans and people in general hate kind of uncertainty. And the best way to counter that is to create predictability. And just like you had said, that you try to have an alarm every morning, that you try to do some sort of workout, that you write at least one page each and every day, no matter if that takes a long time or a little time. You say your gratitude prayers, and keeping up that kind of routine to create that predictability, I think, is a really big thing for people in the sobriety world or not.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been really, really helpful. And the gratitude thing, I can't emphasize enough. No matter how dark the day is, there's got to be something you're grateful for. And to have that be the last thing you think about at night and the first thing you think about in the morning is a great way to set your intention, I think, for the rest of the day.
Well, we're very grateful for you, Rob Lowe, for joining us today. Grateful for the love that you've shown all of us in our family. And I think reminding all the millions of people, regardless whether you're 1 year sober, 1 month sober, 20 or 30 years, there's still a huge community out there. As you said, there's still somebody that can talk to you on the phone, and there's these meetings going on all day long, really around the globe, which has been so impressive to me. So I want to thank you so much for inspiring so many people and joining us today.
Yeah,
thank you. I love these. I love seeing you two together. You guys look cute in a two-shot. I like it. You guys are the best.
I'm trying to keep up here, Rob. Trying to keep up.
No, you look amazing. Thank you for doing this. I know people love it so much, and for good reason. You guys are smart as hell, big hearts, and I love that your ability to share this kind of knowledge with people. I'm happy to be a part of it. Thank you for asking me.
Thank
of course.
you.
Thank you so much.
Literally with Rob Lowe. Podcast coming soon.
That's it. Okay, bye.
Bye, you guys.
Bye-bye. So he's such a great guy, so inspiring. Takeaways, go to the Zoom meeting, AA meetings, NA meetings. They're on Zoom. Reach out to your sponsor.
Yeah, reach out to your sponsor. I think that, again, with a kind of an overlying theme that everybody has really talked about is having a routine. And to really make sure that you have a routine and you are hacking your mind to really think that everything is continuing on how it was. Even if it's not, we know that it's really hard for a lot of people out there. People have been laid off, don't know if they're going to have a job next week. They're, in uncertain situations. But if you really create predictability in your day, it really helps with a lot of different, feelings and thoughts. So
that's great. Well, we want to thank you so much for joining us for another edition of Home Together. Shoot us your ideas. We have lots of them. Lots of people. Jennifer Gardner is joining us tomorrow to talk about her work with Save the Children and how she's keeping her young children all active and engaged, and also how she started this whole Save with stories, which are people reading stories,
Right.
and money going to make sure that kids who get school lunches and school breakfasts still get them. So we're going to be talking to her. Mark Groves on Wednesday. We're trying to reach out to Guy Fiore. Lots of ideas have been coming.
Lots of people, but if you have more suggestions, please DM or message us. And
DM him. He
okay, sure.
he knows
DM
how
me.
to
I'll
do
try
the
to go through them. And we look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. And please make sure when you can ask the questions below. You know, if we get some really great questions, we'd like to try to ask them. So the more in depth and you know, great questions you have, the more we'll go ahead and ask. So thank you again, and we will see you tomorrow.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Since we'll still be home together.
Yeah.
Adios. And